Hi, I'm Rosh from Energy Matters. Welcome to our podcast, Road to Zero, where we dive headfirst into all things renewable. Join us as we chat with industry experts, tech specialists, and some of your favorite TV and radio personalities, asking the renewable energy questions that you want answers to. Our goal, a zero carbon future. Today, I am absolutely delighted to be chatting to Chris Georgiou, Business Development and Account Manager for Yingli Green Energy Australia. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, good, Roshan. Good. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Mate, you're very welcome. Are you based in Melbourne, Chris? Or are you in Sydney?
No, based in Sydney, actually.
Well, it's a lot warmer in Sydney, I believe, than it is here. It's I think we had 4 degrees this morning.
Right. We had a cold snap yesterday, but not that bad. So count our blessings. Yeah.
You guys are lucky. Chris, we've come across each other a few times, mainly at the various exhibitions and conferences, which is pretty cool. And it was good to see Yingli there. Before we get too stuck into Yingli and find out more about the company itself, bit of background on yourself, mate. Can you tell anyone who doesn't know you a little bit more about you, your background, and career to date, and what led you to Yingli?
Yeah, definitely. So you could say my kind of journey started back in uni. So I studied here in Sydney, in Sydney University, and mainly doing mechanical engineering. Especially in my final year of uni, I got very interested in the renewable energy subjects, took a lot of electives, and became kind of obsessed with this idea of being 100% renewable. And the idea that you can power the whole world without fossil fuels and just being self-sufficient. So that's where I kind of caught the bug. And then first job out of uni was at a tech startup company called ShineHub. And I was basically selling solar and battery systems to typical homeowners, your mums and dads. But also we had a focus on virtual power plants, or VPPs as we call them. And that's all about developing a system for energy sharing between households that have batteries and have solar. So I got to learn a lot about panels, inverters, batteries, but also the future vision for renewable energy here, which was really good. And then a couple of years ago, I left that company and kind of went out on my own, did a bit of consulting for different various companies. And I was kind of replicating what we were achieving at ShineHub in a way, teaching other companies how to do the same. And then about a year ago is when I joined Yingli, and now learning the whole other side of the business, which is the supplier, manufacturer side of the supply chain as well, which has been really good.
What attracted you to Yingli in the first place? I mean, what was it about them that sort of had you think, you know what, I'm going to give up the flexible work of consulting to work directly for a manufacturer?
Yeah, well, I'd sort of been in the residential field for so long, in about 5 years at that time. So I knew that I wanted to kind of change and get out of that and learn something different. So being on the supplier end was really attractive. And then I was doing my research, different panel companies out there, and Yingli had just been around for so long. So been around for 26 years now, one of the first pioneers of solar. And they've been leading the market even from the early days in 1998 when they started. So that was kind of the obvious choice as a market leader to join Yingli. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you're having fun so far?
Having a lot of fun. Yeah, you probably know some of our team members, George, Fani, Andy as well. So they're teaching me a lot of stuff. It's been really good. Yeah.
Which is absolutely great. And the one thing that's sort of been present to me in all my interactions with Yingli is how relaxed an organisation you are, but with such a strong commitment towards the growth of renewable energy in Australia and of course globally. So it's really that great balance where it's a very pleasant organisation to work with, and at the same token, with such a strong dedication towards the goal, and obviously a commitment for quality components. I mean, talking about the panels themselves, I mean, a little bit of background on Yingli. I mean, whereabouts they're based, where the panels manufactured. Can you tell us a little bit more about them?
Yeah, sure. So the head office, HQ, is in China, in Baoding, which is pretty close to Beijing, actually, in the north. And then our local Australian office is here in Sydney, where I am, in Town Hall, if anyone is familiar with Sydney. From our local team here, we have a full team of support, logistics, engineering, after-sales support for warranty claims and all that as well. And we've been now situated here since 2012. So a long kind of history in Australia that Yingli's had as well.
Which is so important. I mean, we have, watching this today or listening to this today would be a huge, consumer audience. Homeowners, business owners, people that either have solar power already or are looking at solar power on a future project, as well as retailers and installers. And I think what a lot of people aren't aware of is, getting the panels via distribution is important. But really, where you really need the manufacturer is if anything was to go wrong. And it doesn't happen very often these days, but it's so reassuring to know that there is that Australian presence, and especially a well-established one such as you guys, which is in a central location such as Sydney, so that support is available. So good on you for doing it. I mean, how have you found? I mean, you've only been here at Yingli for a short time, but from understanding with your team, I mean, how many panels do you see externally, maybe even outside of Yingli, are being hit with warranty claims and have issues over time?
I mean, on Yingli's side, as far as I know, we haven't had any kind of systemic technical issues. So you get the odd panel here and there, but nothing where we've had to do recalls or whole production lines had to shut down, which is really good. We typically we keep a bit of old stock just in case, but pretty rare. We might get one every few months coming back as a warranty claim. So we have an in-house engineer that takes care of all that as well, and makes that process very easy and smooth to make a claim if anything does go wrong. So.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And drilling down on Yingli a little bit more, I mean, before I get onto that, Beijing, have you been out on a company trip yet? Have they brought you out to head office?
Oh, unfortunately, not yet. They just had the SNEC event in China, which is the biggest one I think in the world, maybe.
Yes,
but unfortunately, I missed out on that one. But I'm sure I'm going to be at the next one next year. So that's exciting. But George and Tim, they visited the warehouse last year as well. And they saw all the different kind of the manufacturing line and the recycling plant as well, which I can talk about a bit later as well.
Yeah, wow.
What we're building. Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. That's music to my ears, Chris. As you know, we've got you guys on the TV show, and we definitely want to, sort of film in China if we can. So we'd love to see that recycling plant. Hint. So we'll.
Yeah, I think it's worth doing a story on. It's actually, quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic. And I suppose all the doubters out there would say, it's all well and good that you got, that renewable energy is going to power the planet, but it's been manufactured with coal, and what happens when it gets to end of life? It's just going to go onto the scrap heap and be part of the problem, not the solution, which we all know is not the case. I mean, maybe really a long time ago, things weren't broken down to be 99% recyclable like they pretty much are now, if not more so. But before we get into the doubters, and we're talking to the ones that love the industry and are kind of keen to know more about Yingli, can you tell us a little bit more about your modules specifically? I mean, what differentiates those from other panels on the marketplace?
Yeah, well, differentiators, I guess, for us as a company, Yingli, the big thing that sets us apart would be the level of experience. So as I mentioned, over 25 years now, manufacturing panels. So we actually have been around longer than our 25-year warranties, which is not a lot of manufacturers can really say that. They've been around for that long to back that up. And then especially when it comes to experience with the N-type technology. So if you look at what's happening now, there's been a shift from the old P-type or PERC modules now towards more the N-type TopCon, which is a high performance panel. And that's just because the price is now becoming at parity where it's worthwhile. But a lot of companies have only been making N-types for maybe 2 or 3 years, whereas Yingli's been now doing it for over 10 years, kind of led the way in the early days. And we've got a lot of examples like the Star Trek house here in Sydney. That's a N-type system, Yingli, over 10 years old, still going strong. So we've got really good case studies on Australian rooftops that have sort of demonstrated that track record with N-type. Yeah.
Which is absolutely fantastic. And I know for the fact that your tech is, both reliable, very, sort of very efficient, produces like a significant amount of energy per square meter, which is essentially what you're looking for, when you are a consumer trying to maximize your roof space and get as much as you can. We are going to be featuring some amazing panels on an upcoming episode of Open Homes Australia. In fact, tomorrow. So having referenced television already, so it's nice to see different projects installed with different, with our different manufacturing partners like yourself. Before we talk more about open homes, let's play a quick preview to anyone who's watching. You can see the preview and hear some stuff. If you're only listening, I apologize. At least there is some music. Have a listen to this and watch this.
On this episode of Open Homes, some Spanish inspiration in Melbourne, breathtaking views on Phillip Island, a tiny house with big ideas, roller coaster ride, and to finish, a special tour of House 1 from the Block 2023.
Well, now we're standing inside, right? It's quite beautiful. It's hard to believe, but Kyle and Leslie did not win one room for an entire season.
Come with us as we step inside.
Well, for anyone watching tomorrow, I won't give away which of those 3 homes it is, but I will hint that it may be a tiny home with big ideas. Chris, the home we filmed was absolutely insane. I mean, for me, rocking up to that place for the first time, I did have, sort of flashbacks of Doctor Who, when you sort of like see the TARDIS and then you go inside and all of a sudden you've got this massive house. Like the place was on 4 by 5 square meters of surface area, and then just really, really tall. Also featured panels as part of the facade, which I've never seen before. So it's talk about utilization of space. It was absolutely incredible. Firstly, can you tell me a little bit more about why you guys chose to get involved in Open Homes Australia?
Yeah, so I guess for us, like the whole reason we wanted to do a segment was just to get that message across to the consumer, to the residential homeowner, that it really is possible now to power your entire house and all your needs just from a solar and a battery system, and achieve energy independence. So we did our research, looked at some of your other programs, and I think that message was quite aligned with what we were trying to do. So that's why, working with you guys was sort of a no-brainer in a way.
No, good man. Well, look, we love working with you as well. And that home was super inspiring. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about the panels featured on the actual show?
Yeah, definitely. So you would have seen, and as the viewers will see tomorrow on the show, so Ralph Alfonso, he's the guy that built the house. And basically it's designed as an eco home. So it's multi-level and only a tiny little footprint, like you said, 5 by 4 meters. But he built everything very sustainably. So even the geothermal heating that they'll see, they've actually drilled into the ground and using the mass of the earth to actually keep the house cool and warm. So but because of that very tiny footprint that he had, he needed the most efficient panel that they could possibly get. And at the time, that was the Panda N-type Yingli module, like I mentioned. So that module there was a 270 watt. But the equivalent module that we're creating now is actually 440 watt in power.
Wow.
So, yeah, massive kind of improvement in that 10-year period. But it is the same, fundamentally the same technology, N-type technology that we were using 10 years ago, which is now just becoming the most popular kind of panel technology out there. So, yeah.
Which is absolutely amazing. And even chatting to Ralph, I mean, his strategy and plan for the future is to, in the near future, is to remove those panels, put on the new Yingli 440s, but then actually reuse the existing panels on another project. All right, which is kind of music to our ears, because from his point of view, those panels are performing perfectly fine. So they're doing their job. It just means he can get a little bit more wattage from the surface area that he currently has, and then just use those panels to power another project, which is exactly the way we love to hear, how solar panels are being used. It's all well and good to upgrade to the next technology, but fundamentally, if those panels are still performing, which they are, then why not just take full advantage of that and then use that for something else? So that's absolutely awesome. I mean, how do you find, in that particular project, as a good example, I mean, how do you find your particular panels help the typical household?
Yeah, well, that particular case was sort of an extreme example, but like you said, the ability to have very high power, high performance panels, which is what the N-type system gives you, you're actually getting more power for the same roof space. So customers that don't have that much roof space, they can access a larger system and power all their appliances. These systems, they typically pay for themselves in 3 to 4 years, and then the warranties now are about 30-year performance warranties. So you're getting over 20 years of free energy after that, after the system's paid for itself. So that's the big one. And then the other one is also energy security, because people now struggling, energy crisis and bills keep going up. So be able to produce your own power in your own house, that just protects you from that kind of instability with the energy prices as well.
No, which is absolutely awesome. So if anyone who is able to sort of tune in tomorrow, so Saturday at 5 p.m. on 9 Life, and there will also be a rerun on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. also on 9 Life. And you can always jump onto our website, just Google Energy Matters Open Homes Australia, and you'll be able to watch the segment after it goes live, probably on Monday next week. It'll be on there as well as on YouTube, and more than likely, you'll see it both on ours and Yingli social media. So it's absolutely fascinating. I suppose, once again, just to reiterate why people should watch it, it's more so how the panels have been used on the facade, which I've not seen before, but is absolutely super smart. So using the panels both on the roof as like I don't want to give up too much away, but really it's super smart how they've looked at the design of this home in its entirety and then utilized the components, including the solar panels, to their full effect for both the visual as energy, as well as really understanding how else they could be used, potentially even as like shade from the sun. So it's pretty smart. So a couple of quick questions, Chris, just more so digging down into Yingli. So like our customers, our audience are always looking for new and cutting edge technology. Is there anything in a pipeline for Yingli that will take your offerings to a new level?
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention as well, it was pretty impressive that he managed to power a hot tub with these panels as well. So,
it's amazing.
Yeah. So imagine when you double the power output, you probably get 2 hot tubs.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, in terms of cutting edge, like we invest a lot in our R&D, and that's why we're always kind of at the forefront of technology. But the big thing that we're doing with these new panels, the 440 N types, is they're also bifacial panels. So what that means is that the panels absorb light on the front and on the back side of the panel. So especially if they're slightly tilted, you can actually boost your performance on a cloudier day. And it's also double glass. So instead of having a traditional plastic backsheet, we've actually replaced that with a glass backsheet. And what that allows you to do is actually protect the panel from water ingress, humidity, and all the Australian kind of harsh conditions. And that just allows longevity for the panel. That's why we've boosted the performance warranty to 30 years instead of 25 years. So it's also got an industry-leading warranty attached to the panel as well. Speaking of cutting edge, we also work on BIPV, quite an interesting area, building integrated solar. And what that is sort of taking a high-rise building or a commercial building and skinning the outside with basically solar panels and turning that building into a little power plant. So that's giving these building owners access to solar where they normally wouldn't have enough roof space to utilize it. So that's another area that we're really heavily working in as well.
Which is absolutely awesome, because I currently live in an apartment. We're about to move to our home where I'm going to start my, I've talked about renovating for many episodes now, and it's finally about to happen. At least start the process. And but obviously, I'm definitely going to be tapping Ralph on the shoulder. It's in Queensland, unfortunately, but it's Ralph can come out on a road trip. But it's amazing. Even when we're in an apartment, I mean, there's probably no one. There's a small block, but really maybe about sort of 50 different apartments or units inside of that across 3 sort of buildings side by side, and very little roof space. I mean, obviously there's a lot of vents up there, conditioning vents, and all sorts of other stuff that takes up the roof, the actual surface area on the roof. So it always is a disappointment to know that, that building isn't powered by solar. So understanding that you actually are investing and do have a solution for that inside of the BIPV is absolutely awesome, because I know so many people would love to, understand how they can actually benefit from solar power technology without the roof space. and it certainly sounds like that tech's there. Has there been much of that being sold in Australia? Is it still very, very new, or is that something that's kind of starting to come out, phasing slowly?
Yeah, it's still a very new technology. So there's plenty of examples in China of this happening many years ago. But in Australia, we're just starting to take it up now. We're seeing tenders go in for these commercial buildings. There's one in Melbourne that recently got put up. That wasn't using our panels, but just an example of the technology that's kind of coming out now. So
yeah, wow,
yeah,
that's
early
awesome.
stages still for BIPV. Yeah.
No, definitely. Well, it's very exciting that it's coming up. I mean, Chris, if you could, if I could grant you a wish, if I was like the solar fairy, and I said, Chris, what technology would you like to see come out next that isn't currently out? What would it be? What would you love to see enter our market?
Well, I'd like to see maybe a flying car that's powered by solar. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
We're not quite there yet, but that's in the pipeline. But no, more tangibly, the next big technology jump is going to be tandem solar panels.
Okay.
So what tandem is really doing is taking the traditional solar panel with silicon and adding in different kinds of materials into that silicon. So one is perovskite, which is quite popular, and kind of mixing the two different materials together to really boost the performance. So panels are currently sitting at around 22.5% in their efficiency, but these new tandem cells, they've proven about over 30% efficiency. So
wow.
It's a massive jump. Yeah, so that's going to be the next big leap for us as a company.
That's absolutely fantastic. When can we expect to see that hit the market?
That's still probably a few years down the track. You're looking maybe 4 or 5 years from now when it's commercially available. But right now the best technology is the N type, but it's going to eventually be taken over by an even greater technology. So
that's amazing. I love it. I just love the fact it keeps evolving and getting better and better, which is amazing. And as we said earlier, I mean, don't let anyone watching or listening that hasn't gone solar, take advantage now, because as Chris mentioned, I mean, the ROI in a solar system, just 6.6 kilowatt solar system, 5 kilowatt inverter, you're looking sub 3 years now. So, if just to have that on your roof right now, in less than 3 years, you've already got your return on investment. You've got another sort of 2, 3 years, 4 years before you even want to consider doing anything, if anything. And the fact is, fundamentally, with technology from about 3 to 4 years ago, 5 years ago, your home could be powered for your lifetime, or for the time that you're actually in that property. So it's just good to see advances coming up. Evolution is natural. And but don't wait, don't hesitate. Just get involved now, whilst there's some great rebates, federal government STCs, as well as potentially state-based incentives available to you too, to get those solar systems, because they will phase out over time, and everything's designed just to get as many people active as possible, and then gradually phase it out. When mass adoption eventually happens. I think we're about 30% now, aren't we, Chris, in terms of homes and sort of installed solar? I think it's around that 30% mark.
Yeah, that's right. Between 30 to 50, depending on which state you look at. I think Queensland's leading there. I think they're sitting at about close to 50%.
Wow.
Now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, hopefully we'll be one of those 50% very, very soon. So, Chris, what changes would you like to see in the industry to better provide consumers confidence that renewables are a viable alternative to fossil fuel-reliant technology?
Yeah, well, I think just in the last 2 or 3 years, I think the confidence is really building. I'm not sure I'd agree that there isn't enough confidence. If you look at, like you said, there's between 30 to 50% uptake now of rooftop solar, and it's also the fastest growing sector. So residential rooftop solar is growing even faster than like utility scale solar. So I think it's the support and the confidence is there now. And that's a lot of that is due to the STCs. It's been heavily subsidized by the federal government, so the STC on panels. The next big thing that I think we do need is more battery subsidies. So we're seeing state subsidies like in Queensland recently, and there's another one for New South Wales, which was announced for November in terms of battery subsidies. And I think maybe a kind of a federal battery subsidy similar to the STC is going to really help the uptake of the batteries, which is what we sort of need right now to make that transition faster to net zero.
No, I completely agree. I think fundamentally it'll be at that point that, you know, anyone who does own a home or a business will be more than willing to max out their roof space with solar panels, because they then know they can capitalize on that excess electricity, via storage, and then obviously use that, store power, in the early mornings, late nights. And if you're running a business, to pay your air conditioning and any refrigeration or anything else you have in that business throughout the night, which is kind of what's missing right now. It's almost, there's this exercise a solar power retailer and installer will have to go to just to do the calculations, the math, to understand what percentage and what portion of your power you're using during the daytime. And then, either design the solar system around just daytime consumption, or if the person being quoted is open to incorporating battery technology now, then great, this is something you can install. But fundamentally, a lot of people are just, getting what they need right now, where, given the subsidies that are available and which shrink every single year, you're better off maxing out your roof space. So I can, with solar panels, I completely agree with you. I think the federal subsidy on batteries is probably the missing piece of the jigsaw. And of course, that then helps the grid as well, right? Because we all know that the infrastructure in Australia is very, very old, and very limited in what it can actually handle in terms of what's coming back into the grid. Feeding tariffs aren't great. So, we kind of do need to assist.
Well, that's right. And if you look at the energy prices as well, so we have a duck curve problem right now, which is basically where energy prices in the morning, they start off high and then they dip down sometimes into the negative numbers, where you'll actually get paid to receive power, which is kind of crazy. And then in the evening, the prices will go back up again. So we've got this massive dip. And what that's kind of telling the industry is that there's already heaps of solar out there in the middle of the day. But what we need is more batteries to soak up that energy in the midday and then shift it towards the evening at nighttime. So that's what a battery subsidy could help us do. Yeah.
And now I concur. If any politicians are watching, you heard Chris, you heard me. Change policy, incorporate some more rebates. We demand it. All right, good stuff, Chris. Chris, finally, just if anyone listening today that thinks, okay, great, we've got solar power. Yes, I agree with the battery. I'm gonna explore my options for a battery. I mean, what other small changes can people make to move us towards net zero and a zero carbon future?
Yeah, well, to put it in perspective, so our targets for Australia, we have 82% by 2030 is what we want to get to, and then net zero by 2050 is our current federal government's target. So we're sitting at about 40% right now. So we're on track, but we do have to kind of triple our speed of uptake if we're gonna make it to that target. So, I mean, like I mentioned, investing in a battery is the best way, because not only can you soak up that midday power and shift it, but you get paid to do that via like virtual power plants that are out there now. And other things is really around energy efficiency. So if you look at the program tomorrow that's coming out, the 5x4 house, he designed that house, really with energy and sustainability in mind. So geothermal energy from the ground, but also he used NASA grade insulation to actually make sure that it was an airtight house. So the more you can do to increase energy efficiency in your house will be a big sort of game changer for you as well. I personally think like maybe, more reusing of clothing and that sort of thing. There's so much waste right now in sort of fashion industry. So, all those little changes can really build up as well. But I think net zero, I think batteries is the number one investment that you can really make an impact as a homeowner.
No, fantastic. And as you said as well, grid independence. So you're not at the mercy of anyone else, and you're in control essentially of your energy production, energy consumption, and those horror bills that we've all seen over time start to come to an abrupt end, which is music to everyone's ears. Before we finish off, Chris, quick question about Yingli. So you did mention earlier and sparked my interest with your recycling plant in China, which I now really, really want to see. Can you tell me a little bit more about what Yingli is doing to reduce their carbon footprint and promote sustainability, including that recycling program?
Definitely. So I guess that was like a teaser, wasn't it?
It was.
So yeah, I mean, recycling, like we said, it's going to be a huge challenge for the industry, because you've got millions of panels coming in now to Australia, and eventually they're going to reach end of life and they're going to need recycling. So We were one of the first actually to work with an initiative called PV Cycle, which was all about creating a circular economy in renewable energy. And Yingli is also one of the first to build their own recycling plant in China. So basically, it's a pilot plant right now. And George and Tim, they visited last year. They saw how it works. They kind of strip down the panel, crush it all up, and then separate out, kind of like sifting for gold, where they separate all the kind of silicon, glass, aluminium, silver. And then at the end, there's these buckets where they capture all the different materials and reuse. Like you mentioned as well, it's about 95% of the materials used in solar panels can be recycled at the moment. So it's a huge business opportunity as well for companies that want to turn it into a circular economy. There's a few companies that we're working with here in Australia as well that are doing the same thing, building recycling plants. So we're helping them, giving them kind of all of our old used panels or defective panels to test out. And the other thing that we do is we build the panels to last. So I mentioned 30-year warranties, but obviously that doesn't mean it's going to stop working after 30 years. The panel can actually live a lot longer than that. So just by building in longevity into the panel, the longer they can last, the less they need to be recycled. So the lower the carbon footprint as well, which is another important factor. Yeah.
No, absolutely fantastic, mate. Well, look, I'm I always loved the Yingli brand before today, but now, once again, I'm buzzing. I mean, there's a few little teasers that you've dropped, some awesome stuff coming in the future, and what we see today is very, very impressive. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been very informative, a lot of fun, and super excited to see more, especially tomorrow on Open Homes Australia.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me, Roshan. Looking forward to the program tomorrow.
Mate, good man. You're very, very welcome. So, guys, you heard it here first. Yingli, look, really tomorrow, find out more for yourself just by watching Open Homes Australia. It's going to be on at 5 p.m. on 9 Life, so on the 9 network. And if you missed that, Sunday at 2:30 p.m. on 9 Life. And if you missed that and you're out over the weekend or away, you can go on to 9 Now. So their catch-up TV service, so digital service, and you can just watch it at your leisure, just stream the whole season if you haven't watched it yet, as well as see what Yingli are up to on tomorrow's episode. That'll probably be available on 9 Now by Monday. If you have yet to go solar, fear not. As we mentioned before, there are still some really good federal discounts available via the STCs. So you can jump onto our website, ngmatters.com.au/free solar quotes, and submit a request for a quote for your home or your business. And we will then send that inquiry out to our network of installers. You probably get to about 2 or 3 installers in your local area, and they will quote you on what they can do for you. You can also check out Yingli on our website, NG Matters. Just type Yingli into the search bar, and you'll go to a page that we host on there, which will also show the TV stuff that's coming up very, very soon after tomorrow's program. So other than that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please feel free to follow us on social media. Check this out. This will be hosted permanently on YouTube, which you can subscribe to so you don't miss out on any future shows, as well as on Facebook and LinkedIn. All the best. See you next time. Have a great week.